Good morning, everyone. You may notice I'm a little bit more nasal than usual because I'm recovering from the plague. But not to worry, I survived. I'm a little bit delirious because it is so incredibly hot and I have all the windows closed. Because someone had the audacity to get loft conversion.
Oh. That's it, I'm not going.
At the moment, I'm trying to master the art of emotionally evocative dressing. It is my truest and purest pursuit right now. Generally, I find clothing terribly boring. I don't feel a good outfit is any less boring. What I'm trying to master is the art of communicating through clothing without looking completely abnormal. For example, in my last sort of brainstorm video, I talked about my fish flops. I absolutely adore them, but what I can't do is wear them with a tie-dye shirt and board shorts. You're detracting from the footwear. What you need to do, what I'm attempting to master, is getting the right balance and making an outfit look completely normal unless you are specifically trying to communicate with me. So my idea is, and what I have been doing and what I think is working, through trial and error, wearing one item of interesting clothing in a completely ordinary outfit. So for example, wearing my fish flops with a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. I still want to blend in. I don't want to draw attention to myself. That's not the goal. The goal is communication. You only want to have the conversation if you're interested in it. If you're not interested enough to have the conversation, you wouldn't notice it, if you know what I mean. One example that we frequently discuss on the educational podcast is my Christmas t-shirt. I love wearing my Christmas t-shirt because, from the other side of the road, and I guess that's the marking criteria here. Do you notice it from across the road? If the answer is yes, too much. If the answer is no, move on to the next stage. Christmas t-shirt, I feel like you wouldn't be able to notice it from across the road. Step 1 complete. And that is my goal. However, if you were to get any closer, you would realise that it is a little bit absurd to be wearing a Christmas t-shirt in the middle of summer. I feel like a Christmas t-shirt, when it's not Christmas, middle of the summer or otherwise, makes you think. It would make me think, and that's why I do it. I'm not here to be visually compelling, I'm here to be conceptually compelling. Same with wearing a Hawaiian t-shirt on holiday. Is this just my fashion sense, or am I rage baiting you? No one knows. Not even myself most of the time. An example on the other end of the spectrum of being too much, of being, too much of a costume. This here, to me, is peak performative male outfit. And it's just, I just don't believe it at all. And you can't really describe it and authenticity this, authenticity that, blah, blah, blah. But what is it that makes it inauthentic, look inauthentic? I'm not quite sure. But there's just this universal understanding that this is a performative male outfit. It's almost not even a reflection of who is wearing it anymore. The social cues inscribed within it are just far too strong because it became basically a viral meme. Should I tell you what my greatest fear is? My greatest fear is that they will make meta glasses in the shape of my glasses, because it's quite a meta frame, isn't it? The meta frames are quite sort of harsh and black and big, and I'm absolutely terrified. But how hard can life be if that is my greatest fear? Anyway, that was not important right now. But anyway, compare this outfit with this outfit. It has the elements of the performative male, but for some reason I feel like he's in on the joke. For some reason I feel like we're on the same wavelength. Why do I find this funny? I don't know. To me, that's quite funny. I like this. I'm feeling a deep dissatisfaction with the visual components, the aesthetic components of fashion at the moment. To combat that, I need to transcend fashion. I think the hardest thing is recognizing that a good outfit is just not good enough. The barrier to entry is really quite low. I think a graphic t-shirt, a carefully selected graphic t-shirt will do the job. And it's very personal. I can't tell you what graphic t-shirt to wear. I said I like my Christmas t-shirt. This is my outfit today. And it's also got the same on the back. That's funny to me. A little bit absurd, but not, across the road absurd. As I say, I'm still trying to master it. There's sort of levels of graphic t-shirt that you can get, isn't there? What I hate is drop-shipped, print-on-demand. Someone's found a meme on Pinterest and have just put it onto a t-shirt. That's horrific behaviour. But the first thing I want to talk to you about today, what am I doing today? The concept and evolution of the raglan t-shirt. By raglan, the internet is referring to this sort of two-toned, long-sleeve baseball t-shirt, right? Raglan baseball t-shirts are quite popular at the moment because they come in this sort of two contrasting colours, block colours, and that's what's trendy at the moment. But this is not a raglan t-shirt. The Ashcallaghan trope. This is not, in fact, a raglan t-shirt, or this is not necessarily a raglan t-shirt. This is a raglan t-shirt, but it's not the definition of a raglan t-shirt. All thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. This is a raglan t-shirt, yes, but this is not a raglan t-shirt. In a raglan t-shirt, the sleeves are attached to the collar, and as you can see, this is just a t-shirt with different colour sleeves. And I just think that it's quite an interesting point to make once things hit the internet. In order to sell your product, you just kind of jump on a trend and call it whatever you want, dismissing the kind of original meaning of it. I just think it's interesting. This is not a raglan t-shirt. I don't particularly like the baseball raglan t-shirt anyway. It's just so aggressively Brandy Melville. It's not necessarily that I dislike the sort of visual appearance of the baseball t-shirt. I think it's fine. But the sort of, cultural association I make with it is just far too strong. I cannot separate it from being Brandy Melville, Urban Outfitters, American Apparel. I do find seam detail interesting. The contrasting colour is actually too much for me. I would wear a white t-shirt with a raglan seam on it. The raglan seam is for movement, that's why you have it in baseball t-shirts, because it's for better arm movement. And something else that we all know and love on this channel is the Levi engineered jeans. The Levi engineered jeans have this nappy seam. It's not called that, I'm not really sure what it's called. In a leg insert. I guess you would call it a gusset. But it's not as small as a gusset. It allows better movement, and actually I have a couple of tracksuit bottoms. Educational podcast. This is really awkward to show you. There was a panel in there. Let's try another one. You see that, right? And then you have the Levi engineered jeans. There must be a better way of doing this. Pretty lady. I think I will just show you some pictures on screen. I like that detail. I don't really care if it can let you move or not. I'm not playing baseball in them, but I like the look of it. Next on my list is fun socks. You've all heard of the idea, lipstick theory, buying small things rather than big things to sort of elicit a disproportionate amount of dopamine in times of economic decline or economic hardship, I guess. That's the function that fun socks serves for me. They don't require much investment. What does a pair of socks cost? A maximum of £10 if you want a real fun pair of socks. That's my new favourite accessory, is fun socks, particularly because I love wearing socks and flip-flops. I adore wearing socks and flip-flops. I am a little bit annoyed that flip-flops are so popular at the moment. I mean, people have just got to take the stuff I love. They did the same thing with the Vibram 5 fingers as well. My 5 fingers are currently having a bit of a sabbatical because all the cool people started wearing them, and now I just feel like
I'm trying to think of a non-facetious way of saying
I'm not like you, but I can't think of one. I am insufferable. I'm absolutely insufferable. I think you actually have to be quite talented to master the sock selection process, because there's a lot of socks out there. It's quite easy to make a sock. It's quite easy to purchase a sock. Nothing about a sock is difficult. So that makes it, I think, quite hard to make something unique when you have so much to choose from. Some fun socks are trying too hard to be fun socks. Classic middle-aged man who works in finance office socks. You know the ones. Little diamonds on them. Black sock with colourful squiggles. I think that's quite funny. Every year for Christmas I get my dad happy socks. There's something really funny about me wearing a black sock with little colourful squiggles on it as someone without a proper job. And I'm also not very interested in tabby socks, actually, given that I like to put my socks into flip-flops. I actually quite like just shoving a normal sock into a flip-flop. If you only go for tabby socks, you have far less to choose from. There's far more on the market of normal socks. I actually have no problem at all shoving my socks into a flip-flop. I have no problem with that at all, actually. I don't find it uncomfortable in any way. I think you're being a bit dramatic if you do find it uncomfortable. On the topic of shoving your feet into shoes, I actually quite like that look. For example, the Balenciaga ballet flats or the Mason Margiela flats that are kind of the shape of a foot. And also, if you've seen Amy Winehouse's, rest in peace, God love her little ballet flats that she wore, this soft material dancing shoe, where you can see the sort of shape of her foot and where the dirt comes in from wearing them outside, imprint of the bones of her toes. Why do I find that interesting? And the same with a dancer skidding round a floor and you pick up like the black stuff off a floor and you can see the imprint of a toe. I find that quite interesting. I don't know, I like it. Next thing I want to talk to you about is sun fading. It comes underneath this highly personalised, unique items of clothing, because I'm not talking about the sun fading look. I'm talking about actual sun fading. So Represent, London-based brand that I actually think is incredibly boring. I think their designs are so boring. But they're doing this project at the moment, like this sun fading project, where they literally just hung up shirts in a field, sun bleached them. And I love that idea. I really do love that idea. And it kind of comes under that appeal of getting something unique. It doesn't necessarily have to be personal or tailored to you, but there's just this understanding that each piece is unique. It's not really enough anymore for, like Le Labo to say, we hand poured this, because along the way somewhere stuff is done by hand, isn't it? Handcrafted and handmade doesn't really have the same effect anymore. A Shein item of clothing is handmade by someone. If you imagine this technically handmade garment, if there was an inconsistency between two items of clothing, that would be sent back and discarded. However, if you get an inconsistency in handmade garment made by a small business, that's celebrated, that's marketed, that's capitalized on, that all of the items are unique, and look, no item is the same. The same concept in one scenario is being rejected and in the other scenario is being celebrated, and I think that's quite interesting. You want uniform garments when they're being made on this large scale. If you have a picture that you're being modelled on a website, you want it to look like the thing on the website, and if it doesn't look like the thing on the website, you're going to complain. In contrast to if you're buying from a small business, whatever, small clothing company, you can pass it off as it being unique. I think it's an interesting marketing technique. I think it could be used as a marketing technique. I'm not necessarily saying it is, but I think it could be, if you're being very sneaky about it. Credit to Represent. I think this idea of sun fading, like a certain batch of items, I quite like that. I do quite like that. It's not using any resources, it's free, it's literally putting some t-shirts out in a field. And it will make each t-shirt unique, and that's interesting. It's been an absolute pleasure being here. I really hope you've enjoyed. And I'll see you very incredibly soon with another video.
Oh. Ah. That's it, I'm not going.